What's up, everybody? On today's video, we're going to be talking about should you be a homeowner. Now, I've been a homeowner in the past, and I've been renting for the first time in my life for the last year. Here are two properties that I've owned in the past, and I own these properties outright, and you can see on Zillow what I got for these houses. Now, there's a difference between financing a home and owning it outright, and also, of course, renting. And on this video, I'm going to share with you guys, based on my personal experiences, what it's really like to own real estate. It can be a great blessing, but it can also tie you down in a lot of different ways. First, I want to tell you guys the benefits of renting since I've been doing this for the last year. I was able to narrow down my home expense to $12,000 a year, and before I would spend that much just on home repairs. And in fact, if you look at both of the properties that I owned, even though the property value was more than double what I paid when I sold, it means I doubled my money on the home listing price on both of these properties. The home in Naples, I purchased it for $47 and I got $107. The home in Alabama, I got it for $65 and I sold it for $136,000. So on paper, it looks like I doubled my money twice by owning real estate. However, when you include the cost of maintenance, when you include the cost of property repairs, upgrades, and other homeowner expenses, I actually lost money on both of these properties. Take the home in Naples that I literally built by myself. I calculate that what I sold it for was about $74,000 less than what I had in the property. And in the case of the home in Alabama, a new roof was $7,000, as well as $23,000 in real estate fees. In other words, if you're going to be buying and selling properties as you move across from one place to the next, you are guaranteed to lose money to real estate fees. Unless you're going to be living in a property guaranteed for the next 7 years, it doesn't even make sense to buy it. Both the properties that I have owned have been under $200,000, and it seems that in this price bracket, home repairs and upkeep are going to cost you more than the house will ever appreciate. I think there's a sweet spot at over $250,000 where your home could actually appreciate more over the years and you could make a profit. I've seen people buy a house for $800,000 and sell it for $1.2 million. In those types of circumstances, you're definitely making a profit. But anything under $200,000, it seems like home repairs and other issues you're going to run into with property maintenance are always going to drain whatever profit there may be. Today, many YouTubers and other financial advisors preach the message of people being paid off homeowners. Now, I've been in that situation twice, and I'll tell you, it is a massive complication, better suited for people that are much further ahead in their economy. So if you're a young person and you're dealing with real estate under $200,000, there's probably a lot more you could do with that money at your age that will be much more successful. If you're a transitional person in your current state of life and you're not sure where life is going to take you, it's definitely okay to buy a property, to buy out some time and decide what you're going to do. Real estate profits many times are made at specific price points, and it's going to vary from state to state and city to city. There's a sweet spot where you can always make a profit. Sometimes those are properties that are right on the water, properties that are on the beach, or within specific communities that are always appreciating. But if you're buying a home in a very affordable neighborhood, perhaps there's no appreciation that's ever going to compensate how much maintenance and repairs that property is going to need. Factor in regional things like flooding, tornadoes, and hurricanes, and owning a property could become a nightmare. Despite the fact that owning a home guarantees long-term security, it definitely doesn't include the possibility of you just getting stomped out in one position in life and never really progressing to the next thing. Where if you're renting, you feel a lot more pressure to get out of that situation, you make more efforts to change your economical situation, and the combination of owning real estate outright with being self-employed can mean you're practically going to be stuck in that property for the rest of your life. Some people are okay with that, but I want a little bit more out of life. My advice to millennials and other young people that are just becoming first-time homeowners is as follows. If you're able to afford comfortably a home that's over $250,000, go for it. Now, if your home is going to have to be in a bad neighborhood or under $100,000, it's really not worth owning property like that. Banks won't finance it because they don't want to be stuck with that garbage when you fail, and you're almost ultimately going to fail. Because in these low budget neighborhoods, things happen like crime, gang, maybe a house could open up across the street. Now, I've lived in neighborhoods where I've had to deal with neighbors that are doing all types of illegal activities, and believe me that nothing will destroy your property value more than those types of neighbors. And not only will it destroy your property value, but even buyers are going to be aware of that, and they're going to avoid your neighborhood and your property like it's a plague. If you're renting, you can just get out of the neighborhood when it goes to crap and move somewhere else. But if you're a homeowner, your neighborhood going to crap is going to cost you thousands of dollars, and you're going to lose so much property value when these things happen. And if it's in an affordable neighborhood, chances are it definitely could. It's happened to me in both of these properties that I owned, where the neighborhood is so bad that buyers take a very long time and are very hesitant to touch your property. As a homeowner, when your neighborhood goes to crap, the first thing you're going to want to do is move somewhere else. And moving when you are a homeowner means you're going to lose between $6,000 to $20,000 in real estate fees, guaranteed. And that doesn't include taxes. And if your property is appreciating, then you're going to have some type of tax deal to go through. The only real reason you should own real estate in a crappy neighborhood is to slumlord, because you're not the one that's going to be living there. If you're thinking about a place for you and your family to live, you're going to have to be in a more expensive neighborhood. And you can accomplish that by renting. For example, in my situation, I live in a very good neighborhood, but I live in an efficiency. That means I don't have to care about the lawn. I don't have to care about home repairs. I don't have to care about anything. I just pay my rent and I'm done. And I'm able to cap off my homeowning expense to a certain amount. Luckily, I'm able to do that with $1,000 a month, and that includes my utilities, most of them. Now, when I was a homeowner in Florida, my monthly utilities were about $450, and in Alabama, about $670. Factor in property taxes, and you're almost level. Break even costs the same thing to own a house as it does to rent, with the exception that you didn't have to put up all this money up front. Where this could be inverted is if instead of renting a $1,000 a month property, I went and rented a $3,000 a month property. In that case, being an owner would make more sense. But if you're at the bottom of that ladder, you're looking for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath that's affordable, home ownership really has very little benefits, and the real profit margins are going to be in those properties that are much bigger and much more desirable. Now, it's not cool to rent. It's not sociable to rent. It doesn't sound like something your friends and your social groups are going to admire. You definitely don't sound cool when you say I live in somebody's garage or efficiency. That's definitely not a social plus. But are you going to be living for the eyes and ears of other people or for your own personal benefit in the long run? There's definitely a social status that comes with being a homeowner, and a bunch of crap and responsibility that comes along with it. Like, for example, once you're a homeowner, you have to care about your neighborhood. If somebody bad moves into the neighborhood, all the other neighbors come and they want to talk to you about it. Or if something bad happens, all the neighbors want to know your input. So yeah, there's a social aspect where you get respect from your peers and neighbors, people who at the end of the day don't even pay your bills. So now you have to impress other people by your lawn ornaments and by buying a brand new palm tree. You spend all this money to impress your neighbors, all this time trying to get this social clout from being a homeowner. When you're a renter, Frankly, it doesn't matter. If somebody bad moves in across the street, I just rent another house 2 blocks away. When you're a homeowner, you have to hold up some type of self-respect. A while back, one of the neighbors came and complained about the loud music, and I was like, hey bro, I'm renting here, so I really don't care. It kind of left the guy baffled because if you're a homeowner, that's a huge complaint, and it can have consequences. But if you're renting, doesn't really matter to me. Kind of left the homeowner baffled because he initially assumed that if I was a homeowner, he had some type of swing or control over what I could do. When I told him I was a renter and I didn't give a crap, he just walked away. So as a homeowner, not only are you taking care of a tax deed, you're taking care of people's opinions, but you're also constantly worried about what's happening in the neighborhood. As a renter, I could give two craps what happens to this neighborhood. What happens too if you're renting is a lot of the other homeowners, they might treat you like you're just a piece of crap while kissing up to the other homeowners. So what I've resolved this situation as is I actually bought a piece of land near the area that I'm renting, because now that I'm renting in this neighborhood, I know the ups and the downs, and I know the people. I know which properties are profitable and which properties are not profitable, and I've been able to invest in an empty lot. Now, a home in this neighborhood can run you over $300,000. I was able to pick up an empty lot in the area I'm renting in for $17,000. I know all the homeowners. I'm up to date on everything that's happening in the neighborhood. Now, the people in the neighborhood know that I own this piece of land, and you get a little bit more respect because they see you as a future property owner. And if you like the neighborhood after living there for many years, then wanting to own property in that area you've been renting in is a good idea because there's absolutely no surprises. I am not able to afford a $300,000 house right now, but at least I own the land, and if I ever wanted to be able to build a house on that lot, I could. So a good way to approach this situation is, if you're not quite able to be a homeowner, invest in a piece of land in a neighborhood where in the future you would like to live. Perhaps the neighborhood you want to live in is a $300,000 or a $600,000 neighborhood, and you're just not able to pull it off yet. Buy a piece of land in that neighborhood. It might be $100,000, and now you have a piece of land in the neighborhood you want to live in. You can see and visualize the dream, and the money will not be accessible to you because selling a piece of land is a complicated transaction, which means perhaps you're not going to be able to grow that net worth. The land that you buy may not appreciate drastically in value, but what it will do is it will not be money you'll be able to access readily. Perhaps having that money in the bank account you might feel is a huge liability, and I guarantee you, if you have large sums of money in the bank account, you could easily start eating away at it. Land does not even have to be mowed or cared for in many locations. Now, if the land is in an area where there's HOAs and there's requirements, then there's different regulations and there's different fees. Perhaps that's not a good area to buy land. But if it's in an unincorporated area or a community that doesn't have any restrictions, where you don't even have to mow your lawn, owning a piece of land, while it may not seem like it's going to appreciate all that much, it's definitely going to be an asset that is not going to depreciate as much. It's not going to have as many liabilities. If you were to buy a $100,000 house these days, it would be in a bad neighborhood and it would need a lot of maintenance, upkeep, and repairs. If you buy a $100,000 piece of land, you may just have to mow the lawn twice a year. Buying a home when you are not ready for the payments is not going to make your life better. It's going to make your life not only economically, but also the health and happiness of your family a complete nightmare. When you are economically able to buy a house in a good neighborhood, that is where it will be a rewarding asset to own. If you're going to buy a house in a bad neighborhood, an area that's going to depreciate, or in an area where there's a lot of crime and safety concerns, you might as well not even buy it because it's going to be a liability and it's going to cost you more than it's ever going to make you. In my case, not having that huge annual cost of owning a property not only repairs the tax bill, but also all of the things you're doing to a home. Because if you're renting a house, You're not going to care if the bathroom's outdated or if the kitchen's outdated. But if you own a home, please believe that every year you're going to spend $10, $15, $20,000 upgrading furniture, upgrading appliances, upgrading kitchens and bathrooms, where if you're renting, you're simply not going to care. The notion that every person has to be a homeowner and you need to have paid off real estate as soon as possible is a notion that people are pushing throughout social media. It sounds cool, it makes you sound responsible and sophisticated, and it's going to hold you back for a very long time. No matter what I did when I was a homeowner, my income was always about the same. Now that I'm a renter, I've actually been able to increase my income because I've been able to use my free income, my free money, the money that's not going into home repairs, that's money that's not going into appliances, the money that's not going into property taxes, the money that's not going into putting in palm trees to impress my neighbors because my lawn has to look incredible. I've been able to invest all that money into me, and now my income is higher than it's ever been. I don't regret owning those properties because it was a way to hold that money until I was able to determine what I wanted to do with my future. And perhaps you might need 5 or 10 years to decide what you're able to do with your life. Don't go out there and get into a mortgage that you're not able to afford. Even owning it outright, you're still not gonna make a win. So what makes you think you're going to win if you're paying interest on it? Don't go out there and rent a $4,000 a month house. Don't go out there and rent a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Don't go out there and buy a $70,000 truck. You're going to have discipline to get yourself from where you are now to the point where you're able to afford a decent home in a decent neighborhood. It might take you 10, 15, 12 years to get to that point. You may not be there quite yet. I don't believe in stocks. I deal with physical things that I can see. You can make small goals. You can buy a $30,000 piece of land, maybe a year down the road buy a $6,000 piece of land. If land's not your thing, maybe it's a piece of work equipment, or maybe it's a degree that's going to help you get to the point you want to be in the future, but you can use that free money to invest into something that will help you get to your future goals. Even a lot of things you buy for enjoyment, like toys, if you're only going to keep them for a year or two, don't depreciate that much. In other words, you can actually enjoy that money and then recuperate that money later, as long as you're being very careful on exactly what you're spending that money on, as long as you're always moving forward towards that ultimate goal that you have. If you have a large sum of money, you need to stick it into something that isn't going to be accessible to you, because the tendency is always going to be to eat it up. And I have eaten up a lot of my home sale money. I sold a house in Alabama. After the real estate fees, I got $118,000. And today, probably only like $70,000 of that money is still around in things that I can like literally physically sell. Large sums of money are dangerous to have around if you don't have a plan for it. And in my case, if I could go back to when I initially had that money, I would have bought one piece of land for about $100,000 and just grabbed the other $18,000 and said, "Here's Jose, here's $18,000. Do whatever the crap you want with it," because the bulk of the money would have already gone to something so much better. Expensive things with wheels can really drag you down and ruin your future. And it's definitely okay to splurge on yourself once the bulk of the money has gone in a good direction.